Thank you everyone for watching this video. My name is Robert Cup. I actually don't have an actual name for my channel, so just go. I guess I'll just call it Robert J. Cup. But this is another one of my videos here. Actually, I decided to go ahead and do something that I've been meaning to do for a very long while. I had created several PowerPoint presentations for MiHoYo. This was actually sent over to MiHoYo. This is a kind of a love letter to Honkai Impact 3rd, how much I love the game and would love to see. I'm very passionate about toys, and I would love to see a toy line here. And this is just my idea of what a toy line could potentially, what kind of toy line that could potentially come from this game. It's a great game, an amazing game. I would love to work on this somehow. This was kind of, for me, it was a way of introducing myself to MiHoYo and basically saying, hey, I would like a job doing this if I can. I don't need to be in charge here. It would be nice if I could have some semblance of being in charge, but I definitely want to be a part of a project like this that brings Honkai Impact 3rd to a toy line, an actual toy line that encompasses everything that is Honkai Impact 3rd. So I went ahead and created these PowerPoint presentations to kind of show my vision. I decided to make a video on this because I've been having a hard time trying to get in contact with anyone over there at MiHoYo, just because of the program that they use, a WeChat. For some reason, I'm just not able. It's not letting me sign up. So again, this is a very important presentation for me. So I'm just going to continue on. I'm going to do part one is going to include the introduction, as well as well as year one, which is going to be very mild, soft start for the series, and then I'm going to do some more videos with the other parts. There's a total of 6 PowerPoints for this whole entire presentation. So if you could watch all 6, that'd be great. Before I even get started, I just want to let you know, all this is just my ideas. None of it is concrete. Every little bit of it, every ounce of it can be changed. But this is kind of gives you an idea of my vision of the entire series. If you have any suggestions, you can go and drop those suggestions down in the comments. I would love to have them. I can go ahead and make changes here. And then also, before I continue, these PowerPoint presentations was made about a year ago, shortly after Hersher of Thunder came out. Now, there's been a lot of updates there, and I was tempted to update these PowerPoint presentations, but I think I've been kind of procrastinating too long. I'm going to go ahead and just go forward with what I have right now, knowing that every little bit of it can get changed, especially now with the new outfits, new suits, new characters. All that can get integrated into the same thing. So here we go. First one is the introduction. Guys, talking about how what I know about MiHoYo and about the game Honkai Impact 3rd. It was originally released in China on October 14th, 2016, and later released in Taiwan May 18th, 2017, and Japan on February 22nd, 2017. It was later released in South Korea in October of 17, and then Southeast Asia in November of 2017. Finally, it was released in North America and Europe on March 28th, 2018. I started playing it about a month after this point. As of today, Honkai Impact 3rd is in 92 countries. 2 weeks after release in North America and Europe, Honkai Impact 3rd reached 35 million downloads worldwide. That was back in again 2 weeks after this March date right there. It is huge. It is global. It is all over the place. This is a great market to sell some merchandise like what I'm trying to sell here. The exact figure could not be located. I did not have the means to locate it, but depending on this the site, Honkai Impact brings in an estimated 800,000 to 1.5 million per month in-game purchases alone. And this is, again, these are in dollar amounts, so most likely this is just in the U.S., not including any of the countries. I could not find statistics for all the countries. I could only find a dollar amount, and dollar is only in USA, so of course. The Honkai Impact Third is a growing fan base, a manga series, an anime cooking series, starring the game's main characters, and future plans for more anime series are on the way. Like, for instance, we now have the Elf School series. Honkai Impact Third is in the top 10% of mobile games in both downloads and revenue, and is liable for increase in popularity even more. Furthermore, compared to many of its competitors, Honkai Impact Third has a lot more bankable characters that can lend themselves perfectly to a toy line. About the only thing that really beat them were puzzle games like Candy Crush and stuff like that. Not a lot of market for toys in that area. Granted, they made those characters now, which they probably made them so they can make toys, but here we have already built a lot of lore, a lot of characters, a lot of great figures can come from this series. Now, the first decision that we need to get to is size, because scales matter. It's a big decision, and I think in toy lines, there's pretty much only really two major scales. The 1/12 scale, which is very popular, 6 inches. This is the same scale as the mega popular United States Toyline, Marvel Legends, as well as many popular Japanese brands. The upside of the scale allows for maximum detail to the scope while being small enough to display. The downside, playsets and vehicles in the scale are usually too big to manufacture. So you don't get a lot of playsets with this size. And usually you have to go a size down. I think the next size down, probably like 4 to 5 inches. And that range was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and they had some pretty good toy sets, like play sets and vehicles. But even those were pretty big. Also, another downside that I thought is that with the sculpt features are high, if there's an error in the sculpt or it doesn't come out right, it's nearly impossible to hide those defects. Granted, it's also easy to fix them as well. Now, another size that I think is really prominent, it's one of my personal favorite sizes, is the 1/18 scale model, which is about 1 3/4 to 4 inches, roughly about 9.5 to just over 10 centimeters. This is the same scale as two of the most selling toy lines in the world, G.I. Joe and Star Wars. Furthermore, even the Marvel Legends toy line has some figures in this scale, not to mention quite a few Japanese brands and other toy manufacturers. There is a lot in this scale, so there's a lot that these characters can interact with and kind of delve into the world of. The upside, it is much easier to hide imperfections of the sculpts at this size and still have a nice looking figure. Now, that's not to say that we won't try to go ahead and do quality here, but it's just something to note. Also, another upside is the play set and the vehicles. This is the real gist of it. In this scale are a total possibility and a huge draw for the scale of this size. It also makes it easier to create characters or objects that are truly larger than the standard figure, such as boss characters, which I'm planning to have in this toy line. The downside is the details of the sculpts do take a hit, but if done right, the differences in details are almost non-existent. Now, from this point on, because 1/18 is my favorite scale, I'm going to go ahead and do the 1/18 scale, because this is how the whole presentation is based off of. It allows us to be able to manufacture some of the bigger figures and even some playsets without a large cost being attached to the toy. Toys like Benares and Titanimax are supposed to be much larger than the player characters, and the scale will allow for creation and marketing of these figures. Furthermore, sets modeled after the various levels in the game would be too large to be created in the 1/12 scale. In the 1/18 scale, the true scale of this toy line can be revealed. The rest of the presentation is going under the assumption that the 1/18 scale model will be used. This presentation will also reveal which characters should be released when, the possibility of deluxe figure lines within this toy line for some of the larger characters, recommendations for playsets, subsets, and more. I also went ahead here and used articulation, because this is going to be the recommended minimum number of articulation points. Articulation points are where the figure bends and moves and poses from. As shown below is a G.I. Joe figure used to represent how the articulation should look. This is from the second series of G.I. Joe and onward. The toy line exhibited a minimum of 12 points of articulation. First one, there was a ball joint at the neck. So the head can turn and swivel in all directions, up and down, left and right, and everywhere in between. Had 2 shoulder joints. Right here, it was dubbed by Hasbro as a swivel arm joint for both arms, so the arm can turn from side to side at the elbow, just like a normal arm can. Of course, we got 2 elbow joints, the actual just the bending there, not just the swiveling. We've got the waist joint, which of course is also a ball, so it allows them to move in lots of different fluid motions. Ball joints, kind of where the legs meet the hips, so the legs can move just freely, and then 2 knee joints. Now, another thing I want to go ahead and point out is one of the reasons why I went ahead and used a toy figure as old as this is because back in the day, they were able to make this possible and make a good-looking figure. This came out in 1983. So it is a very old figure, and as you can see, it is very well made. They were able to make this that long ago. I is actually looking at about 30. Next year is actually going to be 40. 40 years ago, this was made. Actually, no, not next year, the year after next. So it was 38 years ago. They were able to make this. We have better technology now. We can do a better job. On top of that, they were able to make this cheaply. These figures were marketed, I believe, for, like, granted, this, today's dollars, these figures are made for about $10, $10 to $20. And that's another thing I kind of wanted to use on this is the price point. I want this incredibly accessible to anyone who actually wants these figures, wants to collect these figures. I don't want each figure to be $50 to $100, making it very hard to collect the set. I want them to be inexpensive, but still be able to turn a profit. And if Hasbro was able to do this back in 1983, I'm sure we can go ahead and do the same this year. Make a good-looking figure with high posability, with a low price point for this entire series. And of course, I think this is where I go into that whole spiel here. Now, certainly we have different designs for points of articulation. There are an option of having more points of articulation, but 12 should be the minimum. The G.I. Joe series has proven that these points of articulation, that with these points of articulation, a surprising number of poses and positions were possible. And they were one of the most posable figures out there. It's one thing why I love this series. The idea is that we want our customers to be able to display and pose their figures however they want. If further articulation is desired, we can add articulation to the wrists and ankles, as well as further articulation to various suit designs for aesthetic appeal. So usually, like different suits that have like wings or whatnot that need to be able to move, they can move. Double joints in the knees and elbows will allow for more flexibility, which for our Valkyries may be a good idea. Optional, we may also want to introduce a system to either swap faces or heads to add different facial expressions. This is something that's done often in Japanese figures. This has been employed, I just said it right there. Yeah, this has been employed by many successful toy lines of the anime series, for the anime series. All of these are just my ideas on how Honkai Impact 3rd could potentially make one of the greatest toy lines that the world has ever seen. As with Honkai Impact 3rd being in 92 countries, it will be easy to market these toys to that very large fan base. Just as long as the toys meet each country's guidelines for toys, which these should if the games were allowed in unedited. And for those that cannot be sold directly to each country, the consumer can simply purchase them over the internet. All of these are just recommendations. Nothing is set in stone. We want the figures to come out faster. Now, if we want the figures to come out faster, we can make those adjustments. Slower, those adjustments can be made as well. Switching the order of figures or the weapons each figure gets, that can be easily done. This proposed lineup is just a starting point. All right, so that was the end of the introduction. So we're going to go ahead and go on to the next presentation right here. All right, this is going to be for the first year of the toy line. The initial toy line will be released in sets of 5 characters in a quarterly schedule, accumulating to a total of 20 figures being released this year. These will be standard size characters or characters small enough to fit into the standard toy packaging. With Branya's Project Bunny, creative packaging would need to be figured out to fit it into all standard size packaging. There was a typo there, my bad. These standard character releases will include variants, also known as chase figures. Mostly, at first, it will be just the Palace Swap costumes available in game. Later, these may include unique costumes for specific Valkyrie. These unique costumes will only include those that were available free in-game and not the premium suits that required in-game purchases. At the half-year mark, if the first 2 sets were successful, we'll introduce the 2 deluxe figures, including the Psychic Honkai villains or the Titan mix. These figures will be released in between the regular sets, and then this first year, if sales are good, 3 sets of the deluxe figures will be released. The next several slides will be recommended figure releases for the first year. Since there is no guarantee of a second series, the first year of this toy line will feature each of the main playable Valkyries in their first Valkyrie suit. This is to make sure that every fan of the game can at least get one version of their favorite Valkyrie. Most sets will include 3 of the playable Valkyrie's first battle suits, chase figures that are recolors of the corresponding battle suits, and 1 ultra-rare chase that was a little more difficult for players to acquire in-game. Most sets will include 2 creature-type zombie enemies. The last regular set of the year will have 4 playable Valkyries, 1 zombie, and the first unique outfit of the toy line. The deluxe figure will flip from Honkai creatures in one set to mech titans in the next. This flipping will continue throughout the series. There's even a recommendation for weapons released. The more powerful 5 and 6 star weapons will not be released unless there is special sets or rarer outfits. So here is the first set to come out. This will of course have the first 3 main characters, Kiana, Branya, and May, in their original outfits, the White Comet, Valkyrie Chariot, Crimson Impulse. You got those variants right down there, and with the ultra rare variant being that one version of Crimson Impulse that was a little bit more difficult to get and a little bit more revealing. And then of course we have the first 2 most basic zombies. The first 2 that you actually see in the game was the Vigils and the Archer. Now, and I'm going to be later on, I'm probably going to be editing these. There was such a huge number of weapons in game, and while I do understand what they were going for, they were trying to make a unique weapon for each situation. And what ended up happening is that they were just making too many weapons, and most of them were not used. People would go from like their base weapon to another common weapon up until they start getting into the unique weapons. And so along the growth of these Valkyries, pretty much only 2 or 3 weapons in each star level were actually used, as opposed to the 25, 30 that were created. However, the sculpts on these weapons were still great. I'd still like to see them in Toy 4. And so, of course, White Comet will come out with the most base weapon and one that's a slight upgrade. Now, again, as I said, because there were so many of these pistols, katanas, and cannons made, I went ahead and a lot of times doubled and even tripled up on the weapons for those weapon styles. Once we start getting into the later figures, there's very few sites around, even rare to find unique spears, polearms. Even Himiko, while she had quite a few 2-arm weapons, the heavy swords, they weren't as plentiful as these first two types of weapons. So, but again, as I said, I had doubled and in some cases tripled. I think from this point on, and if I were ever to go ahead and redo this, I will limit the number of weapons per character to only 2. And just if a weapon is not used, just wait for another character to come down the line that I can give it to. So, as you can see, most of these are just base weapons. We got some of the prototypes out there for some of the recolors and some of the more advanced weapons for the harder to find chase. The second set here, of course, has the next 2 characters, Teresa, Himiko, and Fuhua. Teresa will actually have a interchangeable head because there'll be one with her in her habit and one with her without her habit. That's what you call those nun hats. It's called a habit. And then, of course, the only one of these characters that actually had a recolor was the Himiko. Well, granted, there was this. Now, I made this the ultra rare case because you actually had to purchase this by actually becoming a sensei and raising cadet up to a certain level and getting those cadet coins to purchase this. So it was a little harder to get, where this was pretty much given free during an event. We have 2 more zombie warriors here. It's those 2 ninja girls. And everyone loves those 2 ninja girls. Well, not really to fight, but they're kind of annoying to fight, but they're great. They're great either way. Here I kind of did double up some things as well. Fuhua doesn't have as many fist weapons as some of the other characters with their weapon styles. Now, but because they go up and change the look on her hand and arm, her weapon will actually come as a replaceable arm system. So where you would have her in a regular outfit fully down to her hands, you can then pop those arms probably at the swivel wrist area, whatever kind of swivel wrist design we have, we can pop her hand off of and that point and then attach these onto it. And so that is something that we'll have to develop, but that will make it so that she can actually wear her weapons and, and not actually, because she's not actually going to be holding them in her hand like these other characters. Now, with Valkyrie Pledge, with these things essentially floating behind them, there will be a kind of a backpack system that attaches to the back of Teresa. And so it would be kind of a floating backpack thing for her on her crosses. Now, this was, if these first 2 sets sell well, then we'll, of course, get our first deluxe figures. Now, these figures will be 2 size. This is basically humanoid on a Honkai horse thing. So she is going to be at that tall. And so it's going to be a big figure, as well as this guy is also really big compared to the playable characters. So these guys will come out and be larger than life. And then we'll go back to the next set. And now we have the next 3 characters. Sakura, Kallen, and Narita. And, of course, each and one of them had their own recolor. And so they each get their own recolor as a chase figure. And then, of course, I have the ultra rare as being the white Sakura. The white Sakura was hard to get, to say the least. And then we got some more zombie characters. We got the first Razor Claw to appear and the first Hellscape to appear. Those floating, intangible people who were a pain in the neck. Again, doubling up on some of those weapons just because we had so many of them. Now, as I said, the last set was Honkai. Now we're back into mech. Once again, mechs were made to be big. In fact, these mechs were made to actually be able to carry a person. And that's what I want to go ahead and get designed, is a way that you can open these mechs. And I think this mech, I don't think this mech was supposed to be written, but this mech definitely was. And so I do want to make a system where you can just open it up and put a Valkyrie in there. And that I think would be really cool. So in other words, these things have to be big. And this, of course, will also be big too. I think the only reason why no one can actually write into it is because it kept twisting, like its sides would twist, and then once it will fall from a sky, this top part will twist up and it will reveal the rockets pointing in the right direction. That will be all articulated in the figure itself. Now, this is the last set of this first year. And so we're rounding out all the characters that were released at this time. Now, we do have a new character coming next set, but I'm not worried about that right now. Again, this is a starting point. This is not going to be where it ends at all. But either way, we got Sile, Lilia, Rosalia, and Durandal. Now, those two had recolors, as well as Durandal. Seal did not, but this suit came. I think it was either in the set that she was first revealed, or the set that the expansion that came immediately after her first set. But it was really close to when she was debuted, and it was, if you did the storyline at the time when she debuted, I believe it wasn't. That's why I'm thinking it was at the same time they came out. If you did her storyline, you got this. So it felt only fitting to have it be the first, excuse me, have it be the first unique character, the unique outfit to be available in game. Just because of how quickly it was and how easy it was able to be obtained. Still going to be an ultra rare chase. You're not going to always find it. As far as like how I expect these to go as far as distribution, at least one of these chase figures should be in every single box, and this should only be available in every other box. When in the boxes where she's not available, it'll be another one of these figures. So and that's kind of how I figure the chase will work. Now, the zombie this time will be the Revenant, the first one, the witch that could actually summon more zombies. And of course, they'll be getting their own weapons as well. Now, as you can see, some of these are fairly powerful to come out so early, and the reason for that is because there were so few sites. I didn't want to go ahead and give 2 basic sites for these characters. I want to try to give them a unique weapon per character at least. So with less and less options, you got the more powerful weapons coming out quicker. And this is going to be the last deluxe set of the year. Now, these two are also very large in life. One of the biggest problems here is, of course, this guy. And this is the problem with Honkai characters in general, is that they have a lot of floating body parts, which does not really work well in toys. You can't make parts float unless they're attached by perfectly crystal clear parts. And that's what I plan to do on this, is design it so that each of the body pieces are connected, especially the ones that are meant to be floating. They're connected by invisible plastic pieces, as invisible as you can get. There's going to have to be some suspension of belief here, but I think that's going to be the best way to work on those. Now, in conclusion, of course, this is year 1. These are just my ideas of how Honkai Impact 3rd could potentially make one of the greatest toy lines the world has ever seen. With the Honkai Impact 3rd being in 92 countries, it should be easy market for these toys to get a very large fan base. I actually went over this at the end of each set just because it's going to be the same. But big thing here is that nothing is set in stone. This proposal is a starting point. So again, here's some of my contact information. I got my resume up here. My name is Robert J. Cuff. I have a background in, of course, customer service, which I would love to get out of. But I also do have been taught in 3D modeling and texturing. My interests are, of course, video games, anime, music, action figures, and superheroes. My free time, I'm a creative writer, looking to get my first book published. I'm also a fan. Of course, this is an opportunity where I'm kind of applying for MiHoYo, where I like the opportunity to be made assistant brand manager of the Toyline. Just because of my inexperience, I figured assistant and have someone over me so that we can figure out how to make this happen. There's, of course, a protected figure and some other perks that I hope to get with this. Again, this is love letter to this series. Here's where I got all these characters from. You can go ahead and peruse them at your leisure. And there will be more of this in the future. So I do want to thank you if you got to the end of this video. If you like it, go ahead and give me that like. If you have suggestions on other ways, other like weapons, other order, like another way of ordering things, and just like ways I can tweak this toy line, I would love to hear them. Go ahead and put them down in the comments below. Again, my name is Robert J. Kopp. I do want to thank you guys, and you have a wonderful day.